Welcome to Law Line. Law Line is a legal show hosted and sponsored by the attorneys of the law firm of Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor. My name is Mark Proctor. I'll be your host for today's show, and with me is my friend and partner Brian Barr. This is a continuing show in our sequence of shows about the BP oil spill and the settlement surrounding that oil spill. Today, we're going to talk specifically about the rights of individuals and businesses in the state of Alabama. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark. Nice to see you today.
Good. I'm glad you're here. Brian is not only my friend and partner, but he plays an extraordinarily large role in the national BP litigation. As you know, the litigation is centered in Louisiana under the auspices and supervision of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana. Judge Carl Barbier, the federal district court judge, is handling the BP litigation. Brian is one of the four lawyers, and our law firm is one of the four firms who are leading this litigation on behalf of all the plaintiffs throughout the Gulf Coast. We're very happy that Brian can be here today. He spends most of his time these days in New Orleans, and through his executive committee and the members of the plaintiff steering committee that serve under him, a very good thing has occurred in this litigation. There has been this class action settlement that you have heard about that was announced this past March that has moved forward into a settlement process that opened in June and is calculating settlement claims throughout the Gulf Coast pursuant to a negotiated methodology between the Plaintiff Steering Committee through Brian and his executive committee and BP. Today we want to take some time and talk to you about that settlement and how it affects your rights in the state of Alabama. Brian, let's talk. On prior shows, we've talked about the class area being the Gulf Coast counties in Florida, the state of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and four coastal counties in Texas. But detail for us, if you will, the class area as it pertains to the state of Alabama, and then explain the zones within that class area in Alabama.
Okay, Mark. Well, the explanation of the area itself is pretty simple. It's the entire state of Alabama, from the Gulf of Mexico down up to the borders with Tennessee. It's literally the entire state. But what we did is we took the state and we broke it out into zones. We've got a slide that we can showing all of the zones in the state of Alabama. That it basically shows the entire state. So what you're able to see there, and I'll focus in some, zoom in here in a little bit, but what you're able to see is you've got A zones on the beaches, so Orange Beach, Gulf Shores. You're talking about Zone A, which is the area that causation's presumed. You don't have to do anything. If you are a business in Zone A, it's presumed your losses are caused by the spill, no matter what type of business you are. And then there's different risk transfer premiums that we've talked about a lot for different types of businesses in Zone A. Then you move into Zone B, which is that large purple area. It's parts of Foley, but you can see it right there, the large purple area on the east coast side of Mobile Bay. That's a highly tourist area of Alabama. And so what we did there is that's a Zone B. So if you're a tourism business in Zone B, your losses are presumed to be caused by the spill, and you get the RTPs, risk transfer premiums that go along with that. And then in Zone C, you can see that basically goes up to I-10 as it goes around the state all the way up to you get to Battleship Parkway crossing Mobile Bay. That's a presumed zone, actually. That's purple if you've got a business there, going into the state of Mississippi. So basically I-10 south. And then there are some feeder roads coming down from Montgomery, Birmingham, some areas that come down to the coast, come down to the coast towns of Alabama. And if you're a business on one of those roads, or in very close proximity to one of those roads, then you are in the Zone C. So that's how that works with the state of Alabama. Then the rest of Alabama is Zone D. And as you can see looking at the map, that's the vast majority of the state.
North of the interstate.
North of the interstate. And so there are higher qualifications for Zone D, but if you do qualify, you get paid. There's not a question, where you're certifying that your losses were caused by the spill. What we negotiated in this settlement was a formula to determine whether or not your losses were caused by the spill. So it doesn't matter why you were actually down in 2010 under the formula. It just matters, do you meet the formula?
I think that's a great point that you raise. Obviously, you and I do a lot of public speaking about this settlement and how it impacts the rights of people. And one of the issues and questions that we get asked repeatedly is by people who live or work a fair distance from the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, asking the question, look, we recognize that this spill occurred in the middle of a recession. We're awfully far from the coast. We can't certify or swear that our losses were due to the spill. We had losses. They may have been due to the recession. They may have been due to the spill. They may have been due to both. And because we're not sure, we are hesitant to make a claim. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, and we understood that was going to be the mindset of people, but what we were trying to do with this settlement was to take the subjectivity out. We knew that this spill caused such a wide range of economic damage, and it wasn't just the businesses on the beach that were impacted, because those businesses have employees, and then those employees are making less money, and they're spending less money in places where they go around their homes further away from the coast, and there was just this domino effect throughout the state. And so instead of arguing over whether or not somebody was actually caused by the spill, we came up with a formula. And so the formula, and it's agreed to by BP. It's been preliminarily approved by the court, hopefully finally approved by the court here soon. But everybody agrees that if you meet those tests under the formula, your losses were caused by the spill. And for Zone D, what that is you have to show that I don't want to get too detailed on it, but you basically have to show in just using gross revenue, looking at any 3 consecutive months between May through December of 2010, you have to show that you were down 15% compared to either 2009, an average of 2008 and 9, or an average of 2007, 2008, and 2009, and that you came back up 10% in those same 3 months in 2011. And if you meet that basic gross revenue test, you qualify for compensation.
So let me interrupt you a second. Let's just take an example that seems that it may be instructive here. If you are let's say a landscape company in Birmingham, Alabama. Your work is within the confines of the city of Birmingham. You do nothing on the coast. You do nothing for anybody who has any interests on the coast. And your business happened to be down just the way you described with your example of the economic test for Zone D. Are you in? Are you out? What is your status?
You're in if you meet the test. And one of the ways and things I stress when I talk to people about this is don't just look at how you did overall in 2010. That can be very deceptive as far as whether or not you qualify. Because I've seen examples of businesses that were actually up overall in 2010 because they had a very good front half of the year, or they had a very good December, something that caused them to be really high up in 2010. But when you break it down on a month-by-month basis, there are 3 months where they were down 15% compared to those other years, and they came back up in 2011. So it's very important that you break it down by month and don't just ask was I up, was I down in 2010? That's the wrong question to be asking.
Yeah, it's a very big, important issue, not only to the economy of the state of Alabama, but to the economy of the entire Gulf Coast. Make sure you understand what your rights are. Get your financial records together. You're going to need your records from 2007 through 2011, monthly profit and loss statements, tax returns, some other things, but these are things that most businesses will readily have or can get. Have your case evaluated, at least find out where you are. Lawyers like us do this on a contingency fee. It will cost you absolutely nothing to have it evaluated. Folks, pay attention. This is very, very important. It's our job at this point to get information out. Brian and I will do more shows advising you of your rights, but have your case evaluated and do it now. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, everybody.